This is the KoperCrabb podcast.
Summer is right around. Yeah, man. This is a Project Pat service announcement. Hood service announcement. Check this out, man. Summer is right around the corner. Can't catch no corona. 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 Summer round the corner. Summer round the corner. Summer round the corner. Summer round the corner. Catch no corona. Can't catch no corona. Can't catch no corona. Can't catch no corona.
What do you think about that, Zach?
I like it. It's new, right? This is debut, maybe? I don't know.
No, we kind of tried to do it on the episode with Steve Clifford, but it failed.
Yeah,
Okay,
we cut the clip too short, and he didn't understand what was going on. So, and we think we're comedy geniuses for putting that on our podcast.
Yeah.
The Project Pat Hood service announcement.
But that's celebrating. Well, not celebrating. That's just the Corona edition. We're going to call that.
Zach, you got something going on over there?
I do.
You got a fly in the camera or something?
No, I'm not going to fly in the
it's the
camera. There's
kitty.
just a cat. There's just a cat in view now. An actual cat.
There we go.
There's a lot of cat things happening right now.
I know. Is that a wall behind you or a tapestry? What is going
It's
on?
definitely a wall.
It's a
It's a
whole
wall with. It's a sheet.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a sheet that's on the wall.
It's very fitting of you.
Or and hear me out. I've got a camera on the ceiling and I'm lying down on this.
I don't think so.
I don't.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
All right, let me make sure this is all working good. I probably should have done this before we started, but
Well, I had a feeling that if I sat down on the bed, the cat would eventually just make his way over to
Just
me, which
hang
is
out with
exactly
you.
what happened.
okay. So you guys have like a little cat sanctuary temple area.
It's all him. I mean, there's really no other cat here except this. All the other ones are fictitious.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that cat.
I have too. I saw one that you posted recently where you were laying together. It was very cute.
Like how I wake up every day? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he cuddles with you. He's one of those cats.
Yes, though, I mean, let's be clear. When I'm waking up with him, it's because he's very hungry and would like me to get up like hours earlier than I plan on getting up.
Yeah,
I would wake up a solid 4 hours later every day if not for him.
Yeah.
well, then he's doing you a favor. He's getting you up early.
I agree.
Getting you.
I hated
started
it
on
at
your
first,
day.
and now I love it.
There you go. What have you been doing during quarantine? Have you been tracking stuff still from home or like going into the studio or?
I've been definitely working a lot from home. I came into this. So I was working with a band called Black Map, literally like day of everything getting shut down.
Mhm.
We have guitars set up. They are, as far as I know, still set up at Sharkbite like 45 days later because the whole studio shut down.
It's been fucking
And-
45 days.
I know. I can't believe that.
Damn.
That's just off the top of my head, but it was early March.
Probably,
So maybe
you're
more.
totally right.
Yeah, you're
This
probably
it
right.
seems like we're in some kind of like time warp right now because every day is becoming monotonous and starting to be.
Right.
They run together.
Well, but what I was about to say is like, I was in the middle of about to be like the most stressful month because I had like all these mixes coming up. Plus I had like tons of days with that band and I had all these things happening. So that getting postponed for a bit just opened up time for me to really focus on the mixes that I had coming in. They came in pretty fast. It's that, I don't know how to say their name, but that AHTME band.
May.
Oh, really? You're mixing
May.
that, man?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Already done. It was
Send
finished
it-
like a month ago. That
Hey,
was like the
send
first
it
thing in
to me.
coronavirus.
Can you send it over on the?
Yeah, send it to me.
The,
They don't care.
If they're
won't
they're
care.
down, sure. Yeah, I'm sure they're down.
They're down.
They're definitely buds of yours, I know.
Yeah.
And Reaping Asmodia at the exact same time. Got those two
Okay.
albums in my hands.
Cool.
So that occupied the first few weeks, and then now I've been working with some Machinehead stuff and with some other various mixes and masters coming my way. So far, I haven't gotten that. What I guess I'd say bored or like, unemployed just yet.
yeah.
I would imagine that I would, since nobody can track anything and eventually mixes won't come in, but it's not really gotten there yet. And some bands are just doing more, like bands like you guys that record yourself at home are probably writing at a faster pace than usual.
Yeah, and then also I was thinking of hitting you up to maybe mix our next one because
That'd be sick.
mixing sucks.
I think you're really gonna like our next song. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say that Atme. You could say it's Atme.
Atme or Atme? I don't
Atme, I
think
don't
we're
know.
sure.
Anyway.
We
That
don't know.
Atme thing. I mean, it came out so good. And I think in part because I've had such hyper focus. I'm not leaving the house for like 2 weeks when I'm working on it, and that was pretty. I found it pretty helpful. I'm probably gonna like try to actually integrate some like not techniques, but like personal
Yeah.
techniques like in future projects.
So at this point, you don't feel like that type of thing gives you ear fatigue to just listen to one project and kind of mix one
No,
project?
that's exactly what that's exactly what I'm getting at, because I was doing a pretty good system of like, I would work on it super quiet most of the time if I was working on like details, because I got the mix together, like the hard part of that together, all pretty quickly. And then it was a lot of like, I needed to cut every tom. It was like I needed to manually gate the record. I needed to go through and do a bunch of stuff.
I was going to ask you how those. I was going to ask you how those files were.
They were great.
Okay,
they really went well. It was like one of my favorite things I ever got from a studio. And then for that one and for Reaping Asmodia, because I mean, I'm saying I worked on those two pretty simultaneously. So I was flipping back and forth between those two projects, and just getting some really good stuff done with that. And also going out on runs every day basically, and doing my loud listening on my in-ear headphones, doing my more like detailed listening on my fresh early morning ears in the studio. So I'm very careful with this ear fatigue stuff. Like I don't screw around with it, because I don't think you can listen to a mix for more than even like half an hour, in my opinion, without just being totally used to it, and anything you hear is just like fine at that point.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you find that like the initial first things that you do on a mix tend to be the bulk of how it is, and then it's just little from there? Like I've noticed that.
Yes.
Even though I'm like,
certainly,
I'm not very good at mixing or whatever, like the goods, if I've done something that I would consider to be good for my skill set, it's always done like in the first 20 minutes. And then after that, it just goes to shit.
I mean, I try to avoid that happening. I know what you're talking about though, for sure. Like that's what happens, bands that get like the band Black Map that, I feel the worst for them, because their recording's just interrupted, and they're like tracking elsewhere now, like trying to figure stuff out and like doing all sorts of things, because it looks like my studio won't be open until at least June. It's like, that's time, no other factor, but just all the time in between like us being in a room together and us listening to it. Like I didn't listen to it for like a solid 3 weeks. We were supposed to be done with that record now, to be to the label and finished. But that extra time is without doubt already made the record better. Because, you come back after 3 weeks, you're like, oh, what the fuck was I doing with the bass there? That should be different. But you don't hear that when you're on it. Even if you heard it 3 days ago, it's got to be like 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever.
Right. It's like when you go back and listen to a mix, you're like, I could have fixed that.
Totally. I feel like that all the time with vocals, and that's kind of why the way that I track with Navene, we'll spend a month or 2 months and I'll go back to vocals constantly, and I feel like it gives me a better ear to wait a little longer. I just always feel like my mind is evolving, and whatever I put on record at the end is going to be best for me. Whatever I change.
Yeah, no, that's almost always the case too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Like you hear that better.
Totally. So I wanted to get into this because I started thinking about, you being on the podcast and all of the records that I've loved that you worked on far before I ever knew you. And I realized that I have no idea how you guys met or why, because Animosity, I would say, I don't know if this is true, but it's one of the first like records that you even worked on, right? Shut It Down, was it?
Sure.
No, the demo.
Well, Shut It Down's not one of the first. I mean, that's probably like the 100th and 50th record I worked on.
Okay.
But Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
Pre Shut It Down. I was thinking about this today, knowing I was coming on this. I was thinking like, what really hits me is we did like 3 demos of one of the songs on Shut It Down called Leashes.
Mm-hmm.
That song. It ended up on the album, but like that song, I think they came up for like sessions because they were just going to release it like a single of it. I'm not sure. Did you ever release the single version?
No, we did 2 songs when you had your studio.
Yeah, you're right.
We
the other was called Poo Dab. I know that. When you came in the studio, I don't know what it ended up being called.
That whole time was a little jumbled for my memory, but I know that we did like a couple different sessions, and that turned into Shut It Down.
I think the first thing we did was Hellraiser, though.
I think what ended up
the 5-song EP.
Here's what I think ended up happening. We did the Shut It Down album at when you were living at your parents' house, and the studio was
Most of
there.
it, all but 2 songs.
Yeah, but then I think we went and did like those other 2 songs.
They were at Castle Ultimate. They were one of the first things I did there.
But they were at the one at what's that place called?
Yeah, it was called Soundwave. It's called Oakland Music Complex now. Which, by the way, I've been back in that room because that's where I was rehearsing with like the city. They literally took one of my 2 rooms as their like rehearsal spot.
And kept it all this time?
Like decades later. What?
Oh, okay. Oh, they just randomly got it, you mean?
No, it's totally random. I just end up back in that exact same rehearsal room where I had my old studio.
But anyway, I think we might have done another, like 2 songs that made it onto the album, and then we had another new one floating around or something. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah. To answer your question, Shane, you asked how we met, though. I'd say the first time we met is Navene. I would describe as Navene. I was probably 19, and Navene was probably what I would describe as a child.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how young he was, but you were probably 14 or 15, right?
No, I was 16 because I had a license.
You sure you had a license? You guys got driven there the first time, though.
No, because when I met the band, it was like the day after I got my license. Like literally, I got my license, and then that weekend after getting my license, me and Sean, who's my brother, drove up from Santa Cruz to go to a show at Gilman, and that's where I met Animosity, and then like a couple months later, we were recording with you.
So it was already, was it already preconceived that Animosity was going to be working with you before you guys met, or how did that?
That's a good question. I think Leo set it up.
He was like, "Oh, I met this dude online who like records. He's gonna record us." I'm like, "Okay, cool." But I think,
and I remember you guys had done one demo. Maybe you weren't in the band yet, but they had done one recording before me, which, if I remember correctly, was just really, really bad. They had paid for it too.
Okay, no. There's actually 2 recordings before that. If we want to get, actually, there's 3. If you want to get super technical, there's. Well, it might just be 2. But anyway, there's the first one that was the demo that Leo gave me, like when I met him. And I was super jealous because I was like, fuck, his band's way better than mine. And that was like when I was actually 14 or 15.
Because what band were you in at this time?
It was like me and Chase and Sean's band, Regression.
Okay. Chase Frazier, who later went on to be in Animosity.
And then he gave me that. They had a recording, and then I joined the band, and we tried to record with someone's girlfriend who was working at a studio somewhere, but it was on like tape.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like our guitar player was like a stress case, and he like couldn't play, and he was sick, and the whole thing was just
that tends to happen when people can't play their parts.
Like live.
They get sick.
It was like live, like we had to play live.
Oh no!
And it's just fine for me, obviously, but
true.
Anyway, that got scrapped. It never got finished, and that's when Leo met Zack, and then rest is history.
Wow. And
yeah, I think he probably met me through like, if I'm guessing, Something Must Die, or like one of the early metal things I had done.
I think it was
late 90s.
Okay, I honestly think it was this ska band that we were sort of friends with.
No, that makes sense too.
I don't remember.
I was doing lots of ska. Ska was the first genre of music I really like infiltrated a scene with. It wasn't metal.
Why? Why was ska the first one?
Well, for one, I was playing in a ska band. That helps.
Okay.
And also, like, so I started just recording ska bands, and I was working with a lot of various. And we say ska, like a lot of those bands, third wave ska, like it was borderline metal at times. Anyway, it was kind of like that style of it. I rarely recorded like traditional old reggae sounding ska. It was always like very aggressive.
Yeah, it's like
mid to late 90s ska.
Yeah, totally. The ska wave went through my high school too. It was kind of like 4 years above or older than me, but I was like the ska crowd was the music crowd for a while at my high school.
Dude, the Band Geek Mafia, Voodoo Glow Skulls. That's what you're talking about? That kind of ska?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
but I mean, also with lots of horns. Like every band I was recording,
Yeah.
like I was pretty. Like I think the first nice mic I bought with the intention of I need a good saxophone mic. It had nothing to do with like anything else.
and then
like
you were
that.
gonna I'm gonna let people scream into this now.
Yeah.
Trading it up.
Well, yeah, I did.
So yeah,
Still-
that's that was.
But yeah, the shut it down sessions were fucking wild. I don't know if you remember just how strange and great that recording session was, but I remember it fondly because we did that in my parents' living room, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I want to say I remember my dad walking up to me and saying something about you as being like, "Oh, that drummer's really good."
Oh, really?
And my dad knows, and you were like playing blast beats, and my dad's never heard a blast beat in his life. He's like, "What's all this now?" Because you guys were still distinctly different than all the other metal bands, even that I had recorded at the time.
Wow, thanks, man. Thanks.
I mean, that makes
Well,
sense.
Because you heard Dying Fetus and nobody else had.
That's what I'm saying. I was hip
Really
to
what
it,
comes
dude.
down to.
I heard Dying Fetus when I was 15, so everyone else was listening to a bunch of nonsense, and I was like, check this out.
Yeah, which is funny because from there, I mean, to me, when I was a kid, deathcore, I guess, All Shall Perish and all of these Bay Area bands were like breaking. And to me, like back in the day, I remember hearing your name all the time because all of my favorite bands were going to Zack Ohren to record. Light This City, I talk about all the time. I mean, that was later in time, but you were kind of.
No, it's not that much later.
Well, I'm talking about Facing the Thousand specifically, which I think was in 2006 they released it.
Yeah, it was.
And so to me, you were just like this fabled guy in San Francisco who was behind all of my favorite bands at the time. Yeah. So to go on and
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I kind of put that together this morning. I never anticipated that I would be in a band who then went on to work with you a lot and that you've become a friend of mine and stuff like that. But you were kind of behind this like Bay Area wave. Do you
deathcore? No doubt about that.
Yeah.
I'll own that for sure. Because like you look at it, what are some of the more obscure ones you're thinking of? Because there's more than people realize.
I mean,
sometimes.
I'm probably just thinking of the more generalized one. I know that you did like early Ghost Inside. I wouldn't consider deathcore, but I know you did As Blood Runs Black back in the day.
Yeah.
All Shall Perish.
I did all their records. The As Blood Runs Black. Even they did one at Sharkbite like 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that you
their
were
last
doing.
record.
Wow. But I mean, you could probably.
That had offshoots like Belay My Last and like all those.
See, that's
random
exactly
bands that came off of that.
Belay My Last was like, I listened to that. I think it was an EP that they did, but that may have been all they ever released, or maybe it was a full length. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember that song "One Foot in the Grave" specifically. Like, I loved all of that shit, and it's did you like realize that there was a thing coming from your studio at that back in the day, or is that something that now you're like, oh wow, I was.
No, I thought about it recently. Actually, just there's this sweet spot between, I don't know, probably 2005 and 2009, where I recorded a lot of these groups that seemed like none of these recordings, outside of maybe the All Shall Perish ones, were like records that we spent more than like a week on. You know, like these are all, including that As Blood Runs Black record you just brought up. Like that record was a 5-day record. They came up, they left, and then I got a call from a label being like, hey, did you record this? We need like 2 more songs of this and all this kind of stuff. And then they blast off from there. And same thing with like a lot of those bands that, like you mentioned Ghost Inside. Ghost Inside's huge now. And like, they're just a band that came up for like 5 days and did a quick hardcore record that like, it was so nonstop. Navene probably remembers this aspect of me. But even though we didn't record between like 2005 and like 2011 or something, there was like a big gap there. But like, there was like just constant. Actually, no, when you guys were recording Empires, that had already started, where we were just booking the studio 24 hours a day between me and Aaron, just like bands in, bands out, records in, records out. Wow. I mean, I have some regret about that because there's some of these records I'm like, man, these. If I had done these 2 things better, the record would be better. But then nowadays, I've gotten more perspective. I'm like, well, maybe part of my bad, quote unquote, bad engineering things I was doing, cutting corners, like made some of the records exactly what they are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember that was how it was when when we recorded Empires with you, I know that it was just like, oh, in 3 days I'm doing Embrace.
No, that was
Stand,
you
and then I'm
guys. A little more than me in that case. If I remember correctly, it was your goal. I remember this specifically about you in 2005. You said you were not down with a single drum edit being on that record.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if you remember this. You didn't allow a
I
drum
definitely
edit.
remember it. Trust me.
And you
I was
did,
like-
and like you had better takes that we didn't use specifically because you were like, nah, I fucked up that one part, so you want it one take start to finish each song. And I
What
think
a
no
dick.
click track, right? So like it was just like
And no click
it
track.
had to be all one like that.
How do you record with no click track? That doesn't make any sense. To
Yeah,
me.
I'm wondering that.
You recorded most of your records with no click track.
No, but I
with
mean
me
from an
back in the day,
engineer's
but yeah.
standpoint, you know, like
Engineering standpoint, it's my favorite way to record it, and also a challenge. But like it's a challenge if you're gonna not live track the basics, but like I fucking love throwing a band now that I have a big enough studio to do it. Like you've been a part of it recently. Like, you know, if I can get a live take where the band's playing together, it's still kind of an unbeatable
yeah.
thing to me. Like if
Got
I
that
could
magic.
do that and they could play really good, a lot of the bands I'm recording, especially in like tech death, like they're playing stuff they can't really play up to studio good, and so like that's a whole different.
Called out,
scenario.
Yeah,
dude. Called
yeah.
out.
I will not hesitate to call out half. That's low. 90% of
Yeah, I know.
these
I was
like
like,
hyper technical death metal bands that, you know, and there's something to that too. I used to just think it was like gross and I didn't like being part of it, but now I'm like, well, no, you're making a product to aspire to,
Yeah.
like playing wise, and a lot of those bands can deliver the goods live, or
Right.
at least 95% of it.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that come in just like that I hate for the rest of my life because they come in like with stuff that's like literally 80 beats per minute faster than they could ever humanly play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that still drives me nuts. It's not my scene and I don't really want to be a part of it. That's really what it comes down to.
All right. Well, we're gonna end it there.
Yeah, end of it.
Nah, I
I mean,
totally.
that's something I like about Entheos. You guys have never like brought something to me that you couldn't play or
Yeah.
any
Well,
dog shit like that.
yeah, I mean, that's
Better.
never been the point for us, is to be like this
No.
hyper tech band, which is weird because I think that a lot of people anticipated our band being that way, like making super tech stuff, or anticipated that our band would sound a little differently just because,
Yeah.
you know, they thought we'd be Animosity or we'd be.
Or they thought you'd be Flesh Rot or like
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Which isn't, you know, we're a different band than that. But I totally agree with you. That type of music is what draws me in, stuff that is humanly possible and emotive. And I find that in a lot, I'm not going to say every technical band, but in a lot of those bands, it's like missing some human element that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing that always makes a good record in that genre too. Some of my favorite records I've done. You asked about click track, maybe like one of my favorite like tech death records that's like fully in that tech death genre that I still enjoy to this day is that Odious Mortem record, Cryptic Implosion, I think it's called. And like that record, no click track. That's just Casey going in there,
Damn.
you know, hammering the songs out, do a few drum edits,
Yeah.
go on to layer bass, guitar, vocal, done. Super organic sounding record, like and then like it was just great doing that style of like tech death, and I like that a lot more than like completely mapped out click track. We got to quantize out the drums. We got to make everything super perfect. Sometimes that works great too, but like I'd prefer it to be like what people played, not some like I'm into. You know, I mean, I have origins in computer music, so it's like I've heard enough of that. I don't want to hear like just a souped up Guitar Pro thing. So I want to really get real things going.
I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said for music that's like hyper inhuman. It's kind of
absolutely
it takes on its own form, and it's something different than the organic feel.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like sometimes I'm in the mood to hear something that's just like super fake and
I think that
crazy. I want to hear that just
when
because it's like audio porn.
Yeah, it's a thing that you just have to kind of take for what it is, I guess. And most of the time, it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean,
just even taking it for.
I know
what
it's
it is.
Zach likes the natural vibe.
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't have to be. And to be clear, I'm not trying to go over the top here with this. Like, for example, you were bringing up Chase. I mean, his band Continuum, their new record, that's like right in the sweet spot for me too for this tech death stuff because you know they all really play the stuff. Like there's not actually that much drum editing on that record, for example, and like it's all still pretty hyper technical.
Yeah.
They just deliver the goods.
Yeah,
Totally.
you're right about that sweet spot. There's just a sweet spot where their tech bands continuum is a really good example of bands that I really like because I can listen to it and hear a band, as opposed to when I hear like Navene listens to some super like hyper edited guitar stuff sometimes, and I just don't hear a band behind it, and I think it turns me off because I can go and listen to a lot of like cool electronica if I want to hear that vibe. But I understand why it exists and why people are into it. It's more for...
That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes at a certain point in my life, I was like, if it sounded like a band, I didn't want to listen to it. I only wanted to listen to project sounding music.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, really? Okay.
And some people are still like that. And I think a lot of people that listen, like people that are gravitate towards like Flesh Rot, they're more into project style music. Just like one man hashing it out rather than a band.
Well, I'm super into those things in general too. And I mean, some of my favorite projects I work on are like with one person or two people, like just, and I absolutely think it's because of that. They've cheated their way around the whole thing of having a band and dealing with all the interpersonal, and they're able to actually just get what they're trying to do out of their head. I love that. Flesh Rot record has like some really, really interestingly done like things I don't think really could get out of your head to a different guitarist and like get all that shit like just exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to throw Flesh Rot into the super hyper technical thing because I love that record so much. I wouldn't even consider it. It's not what I'm talking about, you know. But
which is funny that you say that because like Dustin and I, our friend, you know Dustin.
Dustin Miller.
I know him through that record too in some ways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he mastered it, and we would talk a lot at that time when I was recording it. And he would sort of say what you're saying, like, oh, if it's like super hyper edited and all, and it's all quantized and stuff, it's like it kind of loses its soul. And I'm like, Flesh Rot's like that, you know. Every single drum hit's quantized, like.
Right.
Guitars
you did it a really cool way though. You did. Correct me if I'm wrong. You did real cymbals.
Yep.
And then like the drums are all trigger, right?
Yeah, it's like mesh heads, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I would just play the first thing that came to mind and quantize it, and that would be the take.
I was bringing that up, by the way, Jade. Actually, more like Navene saying he's listened to these bands are a project type thing.
Yeah.
That's like, in my opinion, just like a great example of something like that. That's
Absolutely.
all. Like, because like I don't think it comes out right if it's like some giant production. If he like comes and like does that with some producer and like they go through and get these perfect sounds and do all this stuff. Like, no, that came out the way it came out because it's fucking nasty. Like the way it's put together, it's just
I also think there's
out there.
Definitely like what you were saying about the flaws of the album making it cool.
Right,
I think that record is like total embodiment of that because it's like I didn't know what I was doing, but it just sounds insane.
Yeah.
You know. So
yeah.
That's rare, but it happens. But well, so you did Atme and Reaping Asmodea, and what else are you working on? Is that it?
No, I mean I've been working on new Machinehead stuff, working on what the fuck else have I been doing? I did like 3 mastering projects, like they just come and go and I forget, but whatever, you know, it's just quarantining, doing whatever.
How did it come about that you were the guy who's working on pretty much every Machinehead record now? How did you meet?
Because you're pretty full time with them, right? I mean, I know you do a lot with them.
Full time's one way. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean,
at one point you were sort of full time with them, right?
No, I'm saying
sitting in on their
absolutely.
like writing sessions and whatnot, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've been around for it. I mean, people, you're on 2 Machinehead songs. One that's come out is like their top track, like in years. Like it's doing really well. I don't know if you see this, but that track's doing great.
Let's see what happens.
On the radio and shit.
When you make the good decision to get me on the track, you see, it's it's about
I
fucking time.
I said those words came out of my mouth. This song sounds like it needs Navene Copperweiss on it. And
wow.
I was happy to do it.
Came out great, but the one that hasn't come out, I'm honestly more excited about that song.
I know. I like that one. Yeah. That one.
it's got that, you haven't even heard like what they made of that breakdown, because like you came in, like they wrote a breakdown with you on the spot, and like it turned into something really cool eventually.
I'm excited to
But
hear
like
it.
it's not done. Like, and it's hard for
it.
him to finish things right now because of, you know, shelter in place. But yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, back to my original question. How did you how did you meet Rob and become the guy?
We met actually way back in 2010. He came and recorded an acoustic song at I believe the referral of Eddie from All Shall Perish said, "Hey, you got to try working with this guy." And what I thought after that, because we got together for like 4 hours, he seemed super stoked on what we worked on. And then we just never spoke again for like 6 years. And I just assumed like, and then I saw they came out with 2 albums with the same guy they had been working with, Juan. And I just assumed, I was like, well, I guess whatever. He just didn't want to do the records with me. But I find out later, when he came in and did that, they were in the middle of recording an album. Like they were already in studio, and like, it wasn't until years later that he finds out I'm working like 30 feet down the hall from their practice space, because Sharkbite was at the same facility, and they had already done 2 records at my studio before I had ever even met the owner of my studio. Like that guy, the guy they did the records with, I'm sure they would have worked with him again. They were actually really happy with him, but he's disappeared off the face of recording in 2008.
Damn.
So he's been gone for a long time.
But he recorded out of Sharkbite?
Yeah. The guy, Mark Keaton, I think is Mark Keaton. He recorded 2 records of theirs from Ashes to Empires and The Blackening in like 2003 and 2005. So those records were done at Sharkbite. And then they spent, they went to various studios and did the next couple records with this guy, Warner Tiaga, that I'm sure you've seen a few records. He's done all sorts of shit.
He was in that band Vile.
Yep, that's right. He was in Vile. And I
used to jam that.
And then
for sure,
we did a record. Then so then he texts me out of the blue in 2016. Is like, hey, I just found out from Ryan you're working here now. You want to talk about getting together and recording? And then we didn't record Machinehead first. We actually recorded this band Dressed the Dead. Smart idea on his part. He was kind of trying me out with another band just to see how it goes. And that recording went awesome. And like literally like, within a couple of days, like, hey, I dig what's going on here. Just want to like know that, we're going to be doing the album with you and doing this. And then we spent the next 1.5 years working on an album that is like infamous at this point, because it's an album that broke up the band. It's way over 70 minutes long, and it's all over the place, and people love it, people hate it, and it's weird. But we've done a bunch since then too. We've done like almost a whole album of material since then, including like the song you played on and all that shit.
Right.
And only 2 songs have come out from that.
Oh yeah.
So that's what's wild about it all.
People
don't realize how much material they have banked up right now.
Yeah.
Right. Did they get their tours? Anything get canceled because of this Corona
Are you
thing?
kidding? Yeah. Their tour cancellation
they were
is like
they were going
tragic.
to Europe and shit, right? They had like a whole.
I saw what was their second to last show that they will have played probably for a year or so, because I'm sure their tours are like the kind of tours that are going to be the last kind of tours that are going to be able to go to.
Oh,
they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're they had done Europe. I was there for a lot of them, like also selecting new band members, because they needed a new drummer, new lead guitarist, and it was like a big deal. And like, so that was a huge thing to part of. And that was like really nice to watch the whole thing blossom into them really succeeding in these tours, because they got this really killer drummer, Matt. You met Matt. He was in the studio the day you were recording, the British guy. And then they got a Vogue from Decapitate to be their new lead guitarist. And then they're also touring with their original band members.
Yeah, because
you guys are. Oh yeah, you're fine. Never mind.
Because there's like a Machinehead is doing an anniversary tour, correct?
Right.
For that
of their first record.
Right. So
they have the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, they have 2 lead guitarists and 2 drummers. So those 2, and it's like 2 shows. When you go to the show, there's like, you see the new band playing every other album, like playing, like 1.5 hours of like set list. And then the 1994 reunion of the Burn My Eyes lineup comes on and does a whole other set of that album, start to finish, and some covers. And so it's a 3-hour show with no opener.
That's pretty
Damn,
cool,
that's
though.
gnarly.
For a fan of Machine Head, if you want to see it, you got to go to that tour. That would be the full experience.
It was going so well too. Like, I mean, especially like just, I was shocked how well. I mean, I saw them in Oakland at Fox Theater do this, and like it works really well. Their fans are really liking it. And so they were about to go back to Europe, go to Australia, do US Part 2, do South America, and they got all these things lined up, and it's all, you know, postponed indefinitely.
Jeez.
And instead they're just, you know, left in limbo. Plus it's supposed to be a 25th anniversary tour. We're already on year 26, and it's going to be like 27 by the time they're actually able to finish the tour.
Jesus.
That is brutal. Yeah, I mean,
It is
for
brutal.
bands, I think of it more from my perspective. It's like, oh, our tour got canceled. Well, that's, you know, kind of
Yeah.
shitty, I guess. But then with a band like that, or the bigger productions where so many more people are counting on that for livelihood, that's
Yeah.
pretty shitty.
So
It's super shitty for them,
Yeah.
I'm sure, but they're making do.
that's good. So are they like they're postponing everything and just moving it out a year? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they just announced, like they already announced rescheduled dates for one of the tours, but like with the giant disclaimer of, you know, I'm sure you guys might do this in the future too. Like you're going to probably have to start thinking about rescheduling that tour you're supposed to be on tour right now. Am I right?
Yeah,
what
we are.
city are you in today?
Actually, I think that right now we would be driving from one tour that ended in Seattle to the next tour
Okay.
that started in Calgary.
Oh, wait, the tour would already be over?
Yeah. Yeah. So the next tour was
Okay,
supposed to
'cause it
start
started-
tomorrow.
It was supposed to start June 9, right?
No, it was June. June isn't a month.
Oh, no, sorry. I mean,
It was
April 9th.
April 9th,
April
yeah.
9th.
And then the second tour was supposed to start on
Yeah.
May 1st. So
Well, that was a fast tour. That went by quick.
yeah, it was a 3-week.
Yeah. Life flies by fast, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is you'll reschedule that, but when you reschedule it, you'll probably still have to have the caveat that like this also, it's like 50-50 to actually happen. So that's what they just did. But I mean, in everybody's mind, it's more like 90-10 that it's going to get canceled because
Yeah.
it's just super wishful thinking to think by fall, like that's a European tour. It's like, you're going to what if just Paris and London go down?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And you've got a huge European tour, but you've got just Paris and London. You can't have more than 1,000 people or something. It's
Yeah.
like, well, that's you'd be losing like even 2 cash cows on a tour.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing's going to be in the red immediately if you lose even like a couple shows. You got to have all of them happen.
Yeah.
So we basically need like a cure. You may have heard Newsom said there's going to be no concerts in California until there's a vaccine or a therapeutic.
I did hear
Like
that.
it's actually probably correct. Like when you think about it, you're like, yeah, who's going to be going to the shows? Like shows are like the number one place you can imagine people getting ill. They got coronavirus, like most likely on their last tour, that band. So
Especially a metal show. People getting all rowdy.
Yeah. Everyone's
Yeah,
very
it's definitely
close
the
to
worst thing to do in the middle of a outbreak.
yeah, I mean, you saw what happened with Exodus, Testament, and sorry, who's the last very important band in that tour? Whatever, those guys all got coronavirus, all of them. I mean, Death Angel. Like the drummer of Death Angel was in a coma for 12 days and should have died. He was the only guy in the hospital to live from a coma. So
Seriously?
it's like once you got a tour bus and one guy has COVID-19, the whole tour bus is going to have COVID-19. And it's like ridiculous they even got back into the country because they were all deathly ill by the time they got home. And some of them were fine, but most of them were not.
Because you get sick on
They all just
tour
had
anyway.
varying degrees.
Yeah, no matter what on
Exactly.
tour, you're getting sick and it's
You're
getting
in a
past.
petri dish.
You totally are. And it's like you go from one petri dish to the other because you're in a van or a bus, a traveling tube, and then you walk into a venue, which is
Which is
another.
even worse.
Yeah. It's just constantly exposed to germs and everything. Being on tour is fairly disgusting no matter what level of touring you're doing. So
is that what is the reasoning behind you never becoming a touring musician? Because you play like instruments.
I don't like
very
it.
well.
I know.
I mean, I went on my favorite tour ever last year, honestly. And it's still, I had like a couple things there. I was just like, a couple times where I was just like, can I just press a button, be teleported back home like right now? But
was this when
generally speaking, it was so good.
was this when you were touring with Light the City?
Right. And here's why it was a good tour. Just 6 days. B, every show was amazing.
That's not a tour.
Well,
6 days.
it was in Mexico.
C, the
though,
food
right?
was amazing. Yeah, it was in Mexico.
Yeah.
Everything was so cheap. All the food was so great.
Yeah.
It was just like really, and also, I mean, we played well every day, which is nice. So like, no, that stress, and like, it was kind of stressful to like get ready for that tour because I was so out of shape as a guitarist, and like their music's not tremendously complex, but it is challenging because it's like fast, and like I had to like get arm speed back and like be ready to be on a stage.
I wish I could have
At
seen
100 degrees.
I really
in
wish I
Mexico.
could have seen that. One, because of how much I love that band, and two, because I would love to see you playing with that band.
It was super fun, and you know, I knew it was it was a one-time thing. There was a chance I was going to go to Japan with them too. That didn't materialize. Their guitarist was able to go, so it was good.
Well, so
I'm glad I did it though.
why didn't you like it? What didn't you like about it?
Oh no, I had fun on that. That was, like I said, that was the best of all tours I've been on. I've been
How many
on
tours have you done?
maybe 8.
Really?
I don't
That
know,
many?
like 8.
Damn.
Who else
I
have
had fun in 2000. I've had more fun the older I am on tour, to be honest, because like, I'm financially solvent enough that if I'm like super uncomfortable in some weird situation, I'm like, screw this, I'm going to go get a hotel and like whatever. Like, and like, you know, the things that made me super uncomfortable about touring are avoidable the older you get, honestly.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
true.
I think so as well. Like, I kind of,
I mean, I've never been on a
found that
bus
out.
tour.
I found that out kind of early on in the game. Like, if you want to do something on tour, just go do it. Don't be like, hey guys, we should go eat at. You know, if everyone wants to go eat somewhere and you don't want to eat there, then just go somewhere else. Don't be like, no man, we got to go eat. You know, like that's what I did in Animosity. I would just always do my own thing. That's kind of what I realized.
See, that's why you just said that you've never been on a bus tour. Bus tours are cool, but you don't get a lot of the luxuries that you get on a van tour in a bus or
Sounds
a
crazy, but
bandwagon. It's true. You shower less on a bus most of the time because if you're going to a lot of venues that may not have showers or you just can't get in a shower that night, there's no place to shower unless you Uber to a Planet Fitness. Whereas in a van, we're going to a Planet Fitness every day and showering. Or, you know,
or
you
drive
can't
through. Or
yeah, you can't choose where a bus parks. You're going from point A to point B. So I know that there are more comfortable places to sleep and you can kind of chill on your bus and you don't have to drive. So there are definitely those positives, but the not being able to choose where you're at ever and kind of constantly having to be around everyone unless you like get away from the venue. There are positives and negatives to
honestly, if you don't care about partying very much, it's kind of a wash.
I don't. I hate partying. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, when I was in Mexico, I didn't drink the whole time because it was going to stress me out if I did. Like, I don't want to like feel even slightly hungover on a day like ever. So I didn't even like have beer in Mexico. Like I was just
I mean, the bus
sober
thing,
in Mexico the whole time.
The bus
and
thing,
like,
that's just for people who like want to party and get totally.
There's people
to be
that thrive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I find that to be the case. Whereas like I've done my fair share of that stuff, obviously, but at this point, I'll just not drink and drive after the show. It doesn't matter to me. I'm there to work. You know.
That's all I honestly, on the recent tours I've done, that's part of what's made it better. Like I did. Because I mean, I'm thinking back to bad tours. Like in 2000, when I went to Japan with a band that I was playing in for a long time, Box and Compass, and I mean that tour should have been so much fun. All the shows were great. There were usually like 300 to 500 people at every show. It was awesome. All the, you know, Japan's incredible. But I also was just having a terrible time the whole time because like I had no authority over where I was going or what I could do. Plus there's no cell phones too. So I'm just like, if I got lost from the group, I'm dead. I'm just dead in Tokyo. Just like no way to contact anybody. I didn't even really have a cell phone if I remember correctly. So like there's that. So there's that fear of being in this foreign land. And then just, we were like on, you know, the floor of a small apartment that we were like staying at in Tokyo. And then just moving around all these places, taking all this stressful transportation from place to place. Didn't really get a chance to like enjoy it nearly as much as I would these days. Like I would have fun doing it now.
Yeah. That's what I find now about being a little older. It's like I'm outfitting our van to be like this little camper van thing.
Yeah, I've seen your van progress.
Dude, it's way sick. It's getting way sick. I'm on the decorating stage. Once I start decorating this bitch, it's gonna be awesome. Anyway, it's like I'm more pumped for me and Cheney to just like go to some national parks than to go on tour. You know, I want to. I want to like go travel. I've never traveled really outside of playing shows.
I haven't either. I haven't seen most of the United States, to be honest. Like I've been through the West Coast and the South a bit, but not. I mean, the Southwest Coast, like like Arizona, New Mexico.
Right.
But like I've never even been to Texas. I haven't been very far at all.
That's crazy. Wow. But yeah, I mean, like seeing. That's not. You haven't even been to Texas, huh? Crazy.
Outside of a layover on a flight, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can do it one day. But yeah, I mean, just seeing these like food shows and travel shows, they go to all these little quaint, like cool places in the U.S. And I'm like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, because even when you're on tour, the place that you get dropped, first of all, we don't have time to see anything for the most part because we're leaving shows at 1 a.m. You get there. Right. You're going to the next show. You don't go and see cool things. But the places you're getting dropped are generally either in the middle of like a super metropolitan busy area where you can't really get out of the business district, or it's in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
And you can't get to anything. There's no.
Wait, why are you getting dropped in the middle of nowhere? I don't know about this. Why does that happen?
Because that's where the venue is sometimes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you're going to one of these two places and you're not necessarily seeing anything really cool about the city aside from their business district or their like cornfield or whatever field in the middle of nowhere next to the venue.
And that happens a lot in Europe too. You'll be like, sick, we're in
Venice.
Venice
we
today.
went to Venice like on tour.
In some really weird parking lot, like 20 miles away from Venice.
That's exactly what happened. I was so excited to go to Venice and get to see the boats and all of the what are they called? The waterways.
Okay, they're called
gondolas.
Well, the gondolas, but what are the waterways that the gondolas are on?
Canals.
There we go.
Boom, there we go.
Which are filled with alligators now, by the way.
What?
Like fish, like all the wildlife is returning because there's nobody on them in the quarantine.
Oh, wow.
And remember, Italy is locked down.
Absolutely.
And like one of the bands I've worked with in the quarantine was an Italian band that I was doing a mix master for, and they couldn't even get their material to me for like the reason that they literally couldn't leave their house to like even possibly like do like basic necessities. Like they're not like ours is nothing. Like they're getting their groceries delivered to their front door. Like that's the only way you're allowed to get groceries. Like it was wild how much more strict their quarantine was than ours.
I was about to
but they also the problem got more out of control too, but whatever.
I was about to do a drum track for a kid who is in Italy, like when this shit all popped off. And he was like, I can't pay you. Like they won't like
payrolls are stopped till May 4th.
No, not that he didn't afford it. He was like, PayPal's like shut down in Italy.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm saying that. I'm saying I can't get paid for that Italian project till the 4th for that exact reason.
Yeah, he was like, you could make like an eBay thing and I can buy it.
What is that benefiting for them to shut down
no
PayPal?
idea.
It's not that simple. It's more like their banking systems are like
fucked.
Halted. You have no idea how. I mean, I don't even know the details, so I'm not even going to just try to talk about this all. But yeah.
But I was like, hey, you know what, man? Why don't you save your money until after this? Don't pay me to do a drum track. So.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
And you're talking about getting dropped at random places. I was like, what's a good equivalent of that in the Bay Area? It's like, oh yeah, like if you got dropped at the Pound SF, like back in the day.
Yeah.
I've never been to the
wild.
Pound. I hear about it all the time.
I know that's before your time. But
I mean, saw Animosity played the very last show there.
Yep.
Oh right, what happened at that show? There was something.
Free bar happened at that show.
Oh.
Open bar.
Yeah, open bar.
Oh yeah,
you
they
guys
can't
had 3
take
bass
the
players come on
bottles
stage
with them, right? I mean,
oh my god!
Yeah.
So everyone was just absolutely demolished at the last Pound show.
Yeah, I think they blew out the sound system too. Like literally, like semi-intentionally. There's like a line, like never go past this line, and like they were just like fuck it, and like it like from what I heard, it like broke immediately, like halfway through your set.
I didn't. I don't remember drinking that night. I might not have been into drinking at that time.
Yeah. Why did the Pound shut down? It seems like such a legendary.
I don't
place
remember. I mean, It might be construction. It might literally be where the Warriors Arena is now. Like I don't know.
think
It was, but it was off in the middle of nowhere in like Hunter's Point.
Yeah, it was so cool. I remember the first time. Do you remember your first time going there, Zach?
Yeah, I think I was playing there the first time I was going there, unless it was the first time I saw Animosity there, because I saw you twice there.
Okay. Well, we played there like, I don't know, I'd say well over 10 times.
Well,
yeah.
Zach, have you always not gone to very many shows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
like
never.
Yeah.
Like so you were just more.
Never went to none, but I've never gone to a lot.
You've never gone to a lot. Yeah. Well, that's why.
I've gone to more the last 4 years, honestly, than ever.
Yeah.
See, one of the reasons I was excited about this tour that we were about to go on is because we were going to finally play the Oakland Metro, which is right down the street from, And
we were like, Zach can see us.
Finally. But you've seen us before, to be fair.
I did. I went to you in Berkeley, but yeah.
I remember that.
But what was your first time at the Pound?
Dying Fetus, Destroy the Opposition tour.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Also, I just remember the answer to your question. The first time I was at the Pound, we were opening for Goat Horror and I forgot the other band, but it was a Goat Horror show we played that Myatonia, my old tech metal band, played at the Pound. Yeah, that was the show I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I was like we were trying to find it. I think, something happened. Like Sean and I were going to take like the BART over because we were at my dad's house in Berkeley, but we missed it or something, and we were gonna straight up miss the show. And we're like, Dad, you got to take us to the show, man. And he's like, all right, whatever. So we were driving around. This is like before Google Maps and stuff, and we're like, there's a venue out here. This is just weird. Like, what are we doing out here? And so we finally found it, and there was like so few people there. I mean, there was probably 50 tops. And it was a sick show, obviously.
Was your dad horrified to drop his 2 children?
He went to the show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he went to the show.
Yeah, sounds like
I hung out with your dad at the Pound once. I remember.
Oh, he used to go to all the shows at the Pound, dude.
Yeah,
he was up in there.
Really?
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I know Mark, and I know that now.
Well, like Leo's parents would go to. I mean, it's like a couple miles away from their house.
Yeah.
It's like right down the street.
Totally.
And then
it's the best example I can think of like, the fucking poor touring band that's going to be here for like just a few hours before they drive to Seattle come 1 a.m. And like they go to the Pound of all places in San Francisco. Yeah. They eat no burritos. They go see no sights. And then they just have to go back on, the 5 all the way up.
Well, we would usually, because we would go to a lot of shows there, and if we would know a lot of the bands, we would take them over to Cancun.
I'm glad you were doing that.
Because Cancun is pretty close to there, too. So we'd be like, you guys got to go eat at Cancun for sure.
Pancho Villa.
We would do that. Whatever. Yeah. That sounds actually really good right now. I want me some Cancun.
Cancun is really good.
Yeah. I had it like a year ago. Was the last time I've had that shit.
I think I
got too much good burrito here.
Yeah. Oakland,
Alameda, Berkeley. I don't need to cross the bridge to the hellhole to get anything. I don't like San Francisco. I never have.
We were
talking San Francisco my whole life.
About a week ago, we were talking to someone else about how much we hate San Francisco. I don't like it at all.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I don't like San Francisco at all. I mean,
I don't like cities.
I don't really like cities. I'm from a very small city, and going to San Francisco is just, it's a total clusterfuck and everything that I don't like. There's no parking there.
Not right now, dude. It's legit. I was there yesterday. It rules. If San Francisco was like it is now all the time, I'd be like, this is awesome. Like there was just tons of parking on the street. Like I could just, and I took the car because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to park the van. I could have just rolled with the van right in front of where I was going.
That's
amazing.
No
big deal. It was, and there's no traffic. I drove straight to San Francisco and straight home. 0 traffic.
That's the life. I mean, I practiced in a band that practiced in San Francisco for a long time. That it was just like, okay, I got to time this to get to my rehearsal space, and that was right off the freeway, and it was still just like super annoying to me. I'd go. There's things in San Francisco, like if you want to go to a concert, you're probably going to end up going like the Warfield or something. So like that's 90% of the time I'm going into San Francisco to see a show.
Yeah,
I would say.
Zach, what's the most insane thing that has happened to you during a recording session?
During a recording session?
Yeah. I'm hinting at a story specifically that you guys talk about, and I want you to tell the story about a lot of people getting knocked out when you were?
Yeah, that would be Armed for Battle that you're talking about. Well, so I think that was 2008-ish. It was definitely in the place that was like on the Emeryville border,
Yeah.
which, you know,
That place
I
was
thought it was in
awesome.
Emeryville for years. It was actually Oakland. It was Oakland it was in. But it was it involved Animosity to some degree. Like, it was this band from Reno had showed up. They had 2 weeks booked with me to do a full length. They had actually previously worked with Aaron too. The drummer had his pop punk band had worked with Aaron, and he was their new drummer. And he came into this like knowing nothing about whatever was about to go down. And then some of the guys from the band, I don't know the whole story. Navene might even know the story better than me.
I honestly know about as
started
much
a
as
fight
you.
in Reno.
Yeah, like when we played a show, actually it does sort of directly involve Animosity.
Definitely.
When we played a show in Reno, a fight broke out, and some people from the Bay Area got into like a huge brawl. I mean, this thing was crazy. It was like Dan, who was our bass player at the time, Dan Kenny, got sprayed with a fire extinguisher. And I
I heard that part. Yeah.
I was like out. They came out and they like broke the lights out of our van, and I was actually outside the whole time, like just practicing drums, like on my little practice pad.
Just doing your paradiddles.
Yeah, I see all this chaos like break out of the show, and I'm like, whoa, this is insane. And then I don't think we played, and we took our friend to the hospital because he was really badly beaten up. So there became like a Bay Area Reno beef. That's
which I'm oblivious to, by the way. I never heard any of this story before it happened.
That's really all I know about it.
But is that how the Reno Bay Area beef began?
Yeah.
Because it still exists to this day.
No, that's how it began.
Wow.
Oh, it might have existed before that from what I've heard, but like, yeah, that's like a real tipping off point of where this gets really nasty. And so that band books time with me. And at the time, my calendar is completely public. Like, you know, you go to my website, you press calendar, it shows exactly what band's recording on what day. And somebody from the Bay Area managed to figure out that they were recording at my studio. And they made the worst mistake of their life by showing up to the recording like 2 hours early. And I've heard later in life, I hear from like the people that were part of this beatdown that like, you know, hey, if they had seen that I was there or they had seen the scene, they would have just taken off. But like, I wasn't there. They're just in an abandoned parking lot early in the morning. And dudes from the Bay Area scene roll up, from what I hear, mace them and beat them up with baseball bats, all of them unconscious.
Really?
So they were all unconscious on the ground.
Insane.
There's blood on the ground. I know that because I saw that. And so by the time I show up, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours later than this actually takes place, there's one guy from the band there. There's 8 cop cars. That's where I'm like, what the fuck's happening here? You show up to work and there's just 8 cop cars in your parking lot. And you're like,
Damn.
And I was sharing the place with like 4 other people, including people near me that were all but surely tweakers. I assumed, like, when I show up and I see that, I'm like, well, what? I'm like, I sure hope my studio's not broken into or something, because I'm just assuming it has something to do with the meth heads that are around there. But
the area was not good for sure.
That area wasn't like that wasn't like the area you recorded Empires at, though. You actually never went there. You've never been to that spot.
I thought you were talking about the Empire's spot.
No. Okay. I was only at that spot for 6 months when you recorded. Like, the total of 6 months that we were at that spot. That was our second place. It was a disaster. Now, this is the place I was at for like 5 years. And
okay, got it.
The cops were all there, and then the singer's there, and he was the only one that refused to go to the hospital. And he was just sitting there. He tells me everything that happened. What's up? He's like, everybody else is in the hospital. Our drummer's in like serious condition. Like, I was like, oh, the fuck happened here? And then like, horrible. You know, then I just have to like go into investigation mode. And then I know what everybody else knows about the incident pretty much. You know, I've had some people talk to me about it over the years. Some people that were there have admitted they're there to me and apologize to me, because I don't think they realized what an impact it would have on me and Aaron, because like our studio, obviously they knew that it was associated to us, so they were very close to just like kicking us out of the spot, because there was a school there, like among other things we're sharing it with. And like also I lost like, you know, several $1,000s because obviously that recording was canceled. That band, as far as I know, was canceled. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of bad things happened, and that drummer got a plate in his head permanently from the whole incident. So
Oh
it's
my
all,
God.
it's just such an ugly incident of everything.
Violence
And-
is not the answer, y'all.
It's really not. What we went
Not
to,
the answer, y'all.
the reason I was surprised by that being the start of the beef is because we were at a Martyr AD show probably a year or two ago, and it was in San Jose, and there were people from Reno there, obviously, we found out, because during the middle of one of Martyr AD's songs, they started kind of like beating the shit. The Reno people started kind of beating the shit out of everyone in the pit, not being cool about it anymore, and screaming, "Reno motherfuckers!" And just like, it was crazy. I mean, I've heard about like beef, but I've never really experienced something like that in real life. It was.
Is it real? I mean, is that the two? As far as you know, Navene might know better than me, but like, is that like the same ongoing beef?
I have no idea.
I don't know, but I can
I have
only
no
assume that if there's a Reno
This
Bay
is
Area
decades
beef,
ago at this point, you know.
I mean, even at that time, I wasn't. The only reason I know anything about it is because I was playing drums in Animosity.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
so
I'm just like a dorky dude who plays riffs and stuff. I don't pay attention. to it.
involved in beef.
I'm not
yeah.
involved in any beef.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
pretty external to the whole thing.
but I mean, it actually did involve me because you know, Animosity could never go to Reno.
No. No, I mean, it made, you know, put a target on you guys for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense,
Really?
like, oh yeah, I was
Wow.
concerned about the second it happened. I'm like, there's no way this isn't going to get severely retaliated. And what happened, from what I remember, once again, fill in the blanks if you know anything else, Navene, but like, I remember Animosity, not Animosity, but some of the guys from the Bay Area scene ended up feeling bad about it, helped try to make it whole with that band somehow, like got them back. There was stuff stolen from them and it was like returned to them, and like some stuff happened to try to squash this whole thing, like very
man.
publicly on the internet too. But
Dude,
I
I don't
always
know,
was
I'm,
like,
like,
it's not over.
Aloof. I didn't even know that what you said about Gavin Newsom. How you said, like, you know what I mean? I'm not. I do my.
Well, he said,
I'm in my own.
let me
world.
be clear what he said. He said stage 4 is opening up concerts and sporting events, and that's the last stage. It's
Well, what
the
I'm
very
saying is,
last
if I'm
thing we're
not
gonna
like,
do.
if I'm not aware of that, then I'm definitely not aware of a beef.
I
being
didn't even
squashed.
realize that it affected Animosity that closely.
There was also
This-
another thing where we were playing, like, we were playing some show in like Las Vegas, and it
Yes,
was like,
you were.
oh shit,
This affected me too, by the
yeah,
way.
it was like, should we cancel? Like, this is, you know, this is too close. It was like, there were some rumors that they were coming to get us.
Wow.
You know,
Well,
even though we weren't
so you're
involved.
talking about a different Las Vegas incident, because there was a Las Vegas Animosity thing. Is that the show where the venue got shut down because of your show the next day? Because that happened on a tour I was on. We were going to be, our tour was behind your tour, and that venue,
that one
like,
in like
some
Henderson
crazy
or
incident
whatever?
happened, and they had to just shut it down, and that tour date got canceled.
The one in like Henderson. It was like outside of Las Vegas.
Yeah, maybe, because it was, we were going to be support for Arsonist Good All the Girls, and they were playing like after, like
Okay.
a couple of days after you.
Okay, some fight did happen there, but that didn't have anything to do with us. I remember
Okay,
that.
yeah.
I remember what happened, and it wasn't. We weren't involved at all. It was just like some local trying to
Beef.
flex their egos.
This is actually starting to make more sense to me, though, that because Las Vegas, we played there about a year and a half ago, and while we were playing, it was a Vets Hall, I believe. We were opening for Winds of Plague on like their 10-year Decade of Decimation tour. And we were playing, and the pit was going crazy, and some guy got tossed through a glass door. It wasn't even really that
Jesus.
big of a deal. I think he just broke it. But they called off the entire show and kicked everyone out. They were like, get the fuck out of here, wrap up your merch, everyone out. But it makes a little more sense why they were so like on high alert with things like that going down
really
in the
got
past.
a
Yeah.
bunch of- So
There's some wild things that seem to happen in
I'm
Nevada.
really glad that I'm home.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I like being home. I'm on
Yeah,
Zach's
me too.
side.
I know. The older I get, the more I'm kind of like you. Like, I don't really want to go to shows very often. I like to stay home and kind of chill.
The favorite thing I'd say that I did that was close to a tour, by the way, was I did a record with this band Saving Grace in New Zealand in 2013, where like I flew out to New Zealand. It was cheaper to fly me there and find me studio there, and they were on basically Sumerian, and they're like, yeah, it's like his plane ticket is a mild like cost to figure in. Let's just fly him out there. And I was there for 17 days, like just doing a full length start to finish at 3 different studios.
Oh wow.
That part I could have done without, but that it was kind of cool though, because like, you know, the drummer apparently couldn't leave his area and the singer couldn't leave his area. They live like on other sides of the country. So like I went to Wellington, did all the drum tracks. Then like 4 days later we go fly to Auckland and do the rest of the record. And I was just staying at people's houses and it was pretty comfortable. And it was, you know, that, and then I actually got to see things. I got to like, you know, on the times we're not in the studio, I actually like got to roam around because I'm in the same city for like week plus. I'd way prefer that. If touring somehow meant like I was in a band big enough that we had like a week-long engagement somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, that then I'd be way more into it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just
even
don't
if
like moving every day.
I totally agree with you. You start to feel like a ghost in every place that you're in. It's a little unsettling, like not fully existing in any town that you go to and not being able to explore and do those things. We've always talked about how cool it would be if we were headlining and we were big enough to play just 2 shows in the same smaller venue, just leave all of our gear set up and everything and be able to go and like see things in those 2 days. That's kind of the dream for me.
I say do it. Just do it because it works. I've seen bands do it, and especially if you can put out 2 sets, some people will show up for both shows and really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know why more bands don't do it, but I'm sure there's a reason. I think scheduling wise, it's hard to get every venue you want for 2 days because I think we talked about that with Dan.
Oh yeah, maybe
on the podcast.
I was gonna say also people have this prestige thing that they care way too much about, where they'd want to play the bigger, more popular venue.
Right.
I
wouldn't. I like playing small venues.
I like playing small venues
what I'm
too.
saying.
I'd rather play 2 nights at a small venue, packed.
I'd rather play 2 nights in a backyard than play 2 nights at a House of Blues.
Okay, what about 2 nights in our backyard
I would love that.
with no one there? And we just how about we don't play, but we just hang out in the backyard.
Yeah, no playing, just hanging out. Zach, weren't you playing in Rob Flynn's band? You played?
No, I played in his this like cover thing he did for charity. There was I mean that was quite a band. I mean, you know, it's like it's called Rob Flynn and Friends, and he's done it for his birthday every year, but he did it in place of Machinehead. I guess that was last January, so like January 2019, because you know didn't have new band members yet, and like it made a lot of sense anyway to just do it that way. It worked really well. Like it was just a bizarre gig to play because it's at this easily the biggest venue I've ever played in my life, Leisure Center out in Walnut Creek, and it's like way fancier than I even expected it to be. Like, you know, you show up and you got your dressing room, they had like a mirror and it's like Zack Ohren, and there was like all this stuff laid out for me, and really? I was like, and I'm like sitting there in like my cat t-shirt and like being like, what am I getting into? Like going up on the stage and there's just like, it's like, you know, really you know, it's a big like theater venue. It's not like, you know, place bands typically play, and all the other artists that were playing that night were like Grammy Award winning like jazz musicians and like just some crazy stuff like that. But I mean, it was fun playing that thing. That was fun.
What kind of stuff
like
did you get?
Bruce Springsteen songs and shit. So it wasn't, and I played bass in it, so it was fun.
Wait, were you actually playing Bruce Springsteen songs?
Yeah. It was covered.
No, like it was all covers. So it was like we did Beatles, Bruce Springsteen, Rolling Stones. Like it was for old rich people. It was like it was a charity event for ARF. So like I think it was real. The tickets were like intentionally like super expensive, and there were like VIP after party tickets that were even more. Where you know you go and it's like I'm schmoozing with these people. They're like just old rich people, you know, that wanted to donate to cats and dogs.
Okay.
What it was all about. It's Tony La Russa, like, you know, the famous baseball manager dude's thing. So
all right. Well, I don't know.
He was really cool. He came out to our band practice. He would just come out and hang out. He's like a complete legend, and it's hilarious to see how into metal he is and like music in general.
Wow. That's crazy.
Because he's like in his 70s, and you know, you don't meet too many 70-year-old like metalheads, but he's like down.
So that was like an event. Events like that are super fun. Like when we played Mexico. It's not like that, but it's just a big...
Well, we ended up recording too. That's where it got wild. Like the night of the show, after it went so well, because it went really well. Like people received really well. Like Rob comes in, like we gotta record this thing. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then like we did sessions like where we had like you've been to Shark, but we had like no joke, I think 12 people in the studio recording at once on a song.
Wow.
Like that kind of nonsense happening. We wanted to do a really live vibe to it. So it's all live take. Like my bass playing on it is 100% just like the slocked, like exactly live bass playing.
Wow.
And it hasn't been released.
That's
the funniest thing, because it's like so hard for him to release things. It's got to be timed. His manager's got to think it's the right time, that kind of stuff. But it's gonna be. He told me the other day. I just assumed he scrapped it. He's like, oh no, I mean, like we got it mixed and mastered, and all sorts of stuff happened with it. So it's gonna come out someday.
That's
I want to hear
cool.
that.
Yeah, I want to hear it too. Who else was in the actual band with you?
So it's like Craig Lasistro from Forbidden and a bunch of other bands. Craig's in Just the Dead now, and Andy Gallion, the old Death Angel drummer, was on 5 of the 6 tracks on drums. Let me think. We had the saxophone player from the Doobie Brothers on it. We had a bunch of singers came by. Kayla Dixon from Just the Dead did vocals on some stuff. We did like Jared from Machinehead sang. Oh, you know what? No, see, the thing is, part of why I ended up playing bass on that show is he was out of the country, because otherwise it would definitely be Jared. He's always been the bass player on all those Rob Flynn and Friends things. Sorry, Rob Flynn and Friends things. That was really hard to say.
Tongue twister.
So yeah, you tried, and then Crummy Joe played drums on a song, and
who's Crummy Joe?
Yeah,
that's a crummy name.
I'm trying to remember his real name because everybody calls him Crummy Joe. Crummy Joe's great. He's the drummer of Jesus Crisis. Trying to think about who else was there. There's so many other guys I'm forgetting.
If you need a drummer for that band, you call up old
NK.
Navene. Yeah, because I'll take.
There was
that
a
gig.
lot of stuff. What's that?
I said you need a drummer. You call up old Navene, dude, for that one. I'll take that gig for sure.
I mean, we've done so much since then that it's crazy to think about that.
It almost seems like you never stop, Zach. Like every time we've been in the studio with you, you're like, oh yeah, I have this, that coming up. I just got done doing that. I'm working on this. Have you ever taken a break? Ever?
No. This is the closest thing to a break I've ever had. I haven't been in the studio in a month, and this is the first time I've not been in the studio for a month. And I haven't worked with a band in person outside of going and helping Rob get his self-recording setup done for like half an hour one time. Like that's the closest I've been to being in the studio and like working.
So like
I'm
after this break,
working.
are you kind of like, I kind of like being away from bands?
I've always liked it. I mean, I have my life set up right now where I'm doing more stuff at home. Like I have it so I'm working in the studio hopefully no more than 10 to 15 days a month. And I think that's the healthy way for me to do it. I do better work that way.
Yeah.
It's not a rule. If I need to, like, if a band's coming from out of town, we want to just hammer 25 days in a row to do some epic record, I'm fine with that too. But I like to,
in general, trying to keep it like that. Yeah, that's legit. Because you feel
doable
better doing
now because I don't own my studio. It's the not owning my studio thing that enables that. It's like that I work out of this shark bite place, and then we have a really good relationship, and that there's other engineers coming in filling the time, so I'm not the only person there. Sometimes I had stuff coming up here where there was like months where another engineer had like a huge project that's booked for 3-4 weeks in a row. So I'm like, okay, well, that's time off right there to work on mix and master stuff. But I don't stop. No, I'm not stopping now. I was working on stuff this morning. No, like I'm not stopping working at all. And I haven't. And I don't know how, because it's all blurred together. I'm just a Zack unit, and that's what my function is. It's like, the butter in Rick and Morty, the machine that just serves butter. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you feel good doing that all the time, or at times are you like do you find yourself sort of struggling with it ever?
I find myself struggling with it less and less, because I think the biggest thing that I'd struggle with is working on projects that I didn't believe in. Like, meaning like just I'm stuck working on a big project that is not anything I like at all. I don't have that happen much anymore. It's probably been a long time since that has happened, at least for something like where I'm going to be working on it for weeks. Like I don't get myself into situations where I'm like working with a band that I don't like and don't think I'm really gonna
I
vibe
think
with while
that's
they're
the
gonna end
really
up unhappy.
the hardest part about being hired to work on music.
I do too.
For sure.
I do too. Because if I get stuff where I'm doing vocal session work for a band that I just really don't enjoy their music, it will take me forever to finish it. Like I'll procrastinate until forever because I find it so hard to like peel myself off the ground and like work on music that I just don't really like. Yep. It's hard to get through. And that's like the struggle of taking something that you're really passionate about and making it something that you get paid for.
Yeah. But I've always thought, I've thought you've done, I don't know, just like an amazing job with it because you just never stopped and we met you so long ago. So I don't know. I've always thought that's pretty cool that you just kept going with one thing. Stuck.
No, yeah. I've been doing what I'm doing since 4 years before we met.
Yeah.
Roughly, you know. And it's I the only thing I miss and like that I would, you know, maybe someday get back to if I suddenly didn't need to work for whatever reason, like, you know, just come upon some giant cash cow of some sort.
Yeah.
I might go back to actually like, you know, self-producing myself because I haven't done that in like 20 plus years where I've actually written in any substantive way. And I just can't right now. Like anytime I try, it's just like a disaster.
Well, do you think it's,
like,
do you find that it's kind of hard because if you work on music all day at night, you don't want to, because that's how I felt.
That's not happening. It's like the only way it would happen is if I had like a hard stop break in what I'm doing and all of a sudden my creative, because what people are actually paying me for at this point. I mean, what people are paying me for, it's not just like to be some like engineer. They're, you know, like I'm adding creativity to projects I'm working on. Even if I'm mastering, I feel like I am like using my, you know, whatever you call it, my stock of like everything I have in my head in terms of audio to work on something. And sometimes I like just dig into things and go crazy. And like, I look back on projects I've done that I'm like, nobody knows how incredible this one thing I did is, but they have no idea because they didn't need to know. It just sounded good in the end.
Yeah.
Totally.
Problem solving is like my favorite thing to do. I'm a problem solver.
Yep.
You were really good at that too, because you and Navene have this in common where if something very minuscule goes wrong, it'll seem like the biggest problem in the entire world. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed you do this, but 30 seconds or a minute later, you always have it solved. It's always like anytime you've said that, I've never been afraid that it was going to prevent the thing from moving forward because you're so
you should
good.
Be. Outside of me saying, oh my God, the hard drive's making a clicking sound, like you should not be too worried.
Yeah, I don't think so. And Navene does that too because, you know, you've worked with Navene enough. You kind of know how he works. Yeah,
Navene said the most clever thing anybody, when we did what's the most recent record? It's not
Dark
Infinite
Future.
Nothing. It's Dark Future. When we did Dark Future, Navene said the coolest thing he's ever said to me, which is, you told me, and it was in this particular instance, it was in regard to using the all natural drum tones on the album, which we did. We ended up doing it. But you said to me, hey, whatever you do in the future Navene is going to try to tell you to sample replace all of this and like completely change it. And you need to remind me that I said that future Navene is going to say this.
Yep.
But present Navene's right that this is the right way to go on this.
Yeah.
And we should not change our mind because we get some like weird like thought in our head that it's all wrong.
Yeah. That's the problem with the various.
That self-awareness level was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of my favorite parts of working with you is that I do find like I think that for another engineer who may not be hip to the Navene thing, it may be hard for them to work with him
absolutely.
Just because you know how he is in the studio. Like it's almost like a quick tempered thing, but you really know how to work with that. You know how to work with Navene very well. And that's why we go to you for drums because you're so fucking good at doing that. I mean, aside from liking the way that you make our stuff sound, you're really good at working with Navene and like problem solving. Really, it's the problem solving.
I was already thinking of that today. Where I was like, we're kind of working on another track, and I was like, man, it's cool having this setup here, but I just wish I was going to Zack to do this.
Yeah,
like
You mean like recording the drums right
Yeah.
now? Like,
Well, I haven't recorded.
I noticed you upgraded like your drum recording to like like you got a more legit like room to record in and that kind of stuff.
Somewhat. Yeah. I mean, more legit for me. It's not never going to be
just a
actually
bedroom.
legit, but
Yeah.
it's cool because
Mhm.
that flexibility. We can do it anytime, but there is something to just not only working with you, but just like setting aside time and being like, we're going to the studio to get it done, rather than like
That's a thing.
it's
It's a
here,
real
it's like,
big thing.
I'm like, well, I could just do it tomorrow, and I'm like, I could just do it tomorrow, like whatever. But when you like book the day with someone, you can actually get it done for sure. So,
It even works for me for my like if I was like tracking drums for my own project. I actually look back really fondly on like the drums I did on the last record I ever played drums on. I stopped playing drums in 2008, so that's not a thing I do anymore. But back when I was tracking drums for that band, like I had to like really carefully schedule. I couldn't afford to like just set aside time to do it in the studio. I didn't have like an apartment rig where I could do that, so I was doing it in the middle of the night and like just setting it aside, making sure I was ready for it. It was like that probably made everything so much better because I had all the fills planned out. I had everything really set to go.
Exactly.
And a lot of bands need pressure and a lot of bands need not pressure. I've been letting a lot of groups I work with, like they're super comfortable with it, like record their own guitar and bass DIs at home. There's no quality difference if I'm going to reamp it. The question is, are they the kind of guy who needs my guidance to like make sure they're in tune, make sure they get the best takes, make sure they edit everything right? Or are they the kind of guy that just needs time and like chilling out?
Is this something that you've learned over time that you have to learn to work with different personalities like constantly? Like everyone's coming at you differently?
Well, you say over time, like that is 80% of my job.
Yeah.
I've said this before on podcasts. Like it's like, no, that is the job. The job is learning how quickly can you assess the people you're working with. I'd say the second record I do with bands tends to be like the best record we ever end up doing. When I work with groups, like for whatever reason, that's in the sweet spot where I already know all the personalities. Nobody's sick of each other yet. And everything's just this creative flow. The first record sometimes can be fun too, because like you gotta be ready to adapt to every different personality type and and figure out real quickly. Like you got to figure out in like matter of hours sometimes, like how you're gonna work with this group and with these people and who's got the strengths, who's got the weaknesses. Like just from a playing standpoint, you gotta like know who needs my help, who needs to be left alone, who needs to be challenged. Because that's another personality type you got to never forget. There's also the personality type that's like, they only work off challenge. Like they're usually, and I find those to be like a large part of like the elite musician group are like, they need like constant challenge. And if you're not challenging, they're not engaging, they're not playing everything like with their passion that they need.
So what's an example of like challenging a person in that case?
I don't know, I mean, I'm very dry with people and I don't even know it. Like I always have been. I've actually gotten better about this, but like, I got this reputation as being like a blunt asshole to like bands I'm meeting because I would just tell people like, no, that's garbage. You could do it better.
Yeah,
and I say things like this to people.
Yeah,
and I never thought of it as weird. It's how I was like straight from when I was like starting to work with bands. Mm-hmm. And like, I think about it like when I was 16 and 17, I was recording these bands that had no experience with what they're doing. And like, they respected that. And like, there'll be times where I'll get in a room with people that I probably have no business talking like that in front of, but because they've hired me, like I just go into my work mode and I'll just say things all bluntly.
Yeah.
And 90% of people I feel like actually really respond to that well. Like they don't hear me ever insult. I'm just being like, oh, come on, that's dog shit.
Well, it's like when you get into music
when
production,
you talk about it, you can be...
you're not thinking of it that way. It's like we're just trying to work and make something together. It's not. If I'm saying your take was dog shit, I'm not saying you're a dog shit as a player. It's just like that take was dog shit. We're doing it again. I say the same things to myself when I'm sitting there tracking guitar. I'm like, bullshit, that sucked. And it's not. It's just a means to an end. So I think a lot of engineers kind of get that sort of myth around them that they're like so strict or whatever.
Well, no, there's different types though. There's like, I know, for example, who's like, I gotta remember the name of this producer. He did like every Korn album and did all like the
Rick Rubin or Rick.
No, not Rick Rubin. Shit,
I know what
could
you're
give you
talking
this
about.
name.
He did Slipknot, like the first Slipknot.
Definitely. Here, hold on. I'm gonna look him up. I know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
God damn it!
Someone is listening to this and screaming.
He's a huge
the
producer.
guy's name.
I've met him. He's really an interesting guy.
Just not interesting enough for me to remember his
I
name.
mean, remember his fucking name. Well, that's how I am.
It's gonna be pathetic.
I'm really bad at this. You're gonna laugh when I tell you the name. You're like, oh, that guy, of course.
Yeah. Ross Robinson.
Ross Robinson.
Boom.
See, I was so close. I was so close.
So, I mean, I
Rick
heard
Rubin.
stories. Yep, that's what it's like. Ross Robinson, he will do things to like, he will intentionally anger people who are like in the vocal booth, like cut at their soul deep or just like literally physically rough them up a little bit. Like just to fucking get singers in the mood to give like really, really like angst level performance. I'm being specific with singers, but like, and I heard him talk about it. I've heard them talk about it. I've heard people that have worked with them talk about it. I'm like, that's like some next level, like weird life coaching stuff that like he does in his own way. And I'm doing my stuff. My way of doing things is just very different. And I don't think about it. And like, so you guys are talking about it and I hear people talk about it, but like, I'm not thinking when I'm doing it. It's intentional, but it's not intentional.
You're just serving the butter, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And every once in a while it gets me in trouble because like you're gonna meet people that aren't that personality type, the people that need to be a little, coddled.
Oh yeah, we both said the same word.
They count too. There's some of them are just as talented as people that like want to rise up to some challenge, like it's all person to person. Like you said, you got to figure it out real fast if you're recording a band that wants to get in and out of the studio in 2 days and have an album done.
Right.
So.
Totally. So at the beginning, what was it that inspired you to get into being an engineer as opposed to just staying a musician?
Well, I was one before the other almost, honestly. I mean, I was engineering stuff when I was like 12 years old. Like I got really into the computer music stuff I did. And like, so I'm an engineer first. I was really bad at guitar when I started like doing all this stuff. And I can even hear it in some of my really, really old tracks I did though. It's like, I barely really understood how to play guitar. And like, I was like recording little guitar parts. If I didn't have the computer aiding me, like, and I'm talking like it's 1995 and I'm doing this in like all DOS stuff. So it's like, there was a lot that I needed to like do with the computers to really get
you were 12?
What was in my head.
When you were 12?
Yeah. That's when I jumped on that. I mean, I have things I found on the internet of me from like 1993. So I'm 12 in 1993. Whoa. So I would say that's the earliest things that I was just, and when I was saying the internet, most of it wasn't the internet. It was like literal call up bulletin board service. So I was more of a nerd than I was like a good musician back then. So,
and that's because you did.
I think the question you're asking though is what got me into engineering.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. What inspired that? I mean, I know that your last name means ear in German, so that
I'm in family musician. My brother's a classical guitarist by trade, like his whole life, and my parents were both pretty musical. My mom still sings in choir, and like, but so I had a musical upbringing for sure. So it wasn't like just out of the blue, but I mean, it was the nerdy stuff. It was me getting into computers, really. It was me getting into all the sequencing software at a really young age and then getting hired to do those 2 Nintendo 64 games when I was like 15 and 16 years old. That was just this big, like, monolithic thing to me because, like, I was like, I can engineer and make money for a living. And I got paid, like, compared to even what I get paid now, I got paid real well to do those 2 projects. And
how did you go ahead? How did you even get hired to do that when you were 15?
I got 3-word answer for you. America Online. Like literally he was like, they had their guy scouting out like all the people that were putting out all these free things, which were called mods, but that makes no sense to you now. But like basically just putting up my tracks on the internet like someone would do on Bandcamp now. They were looking for someone that could do a good job doing Primus songs. And lucky for me, like my favorite album at the time was Sailing the Seas of Cheese. And like I was learning all the bass and guitar and drum stuff from it anyway. And I had put up like a cover song of a Primus song. So they picked me as one of like the 10 artists they tried out for this thing. And they're like, make a song for this game. We need like Primus sounding stuff for a snowboarding game. I was like,
what
okay.
game is it?
Twisted Edge Snowboarding.
Damn.
I just played it the other day. I finally got a functional emulator that actually had the music corrected in and like everything working. Nintendo 64 is a tricky machine when it comes to that. But yeah, that game's just it. When you think about what it caused me to, I bought some more like microphones and like an actual little Mackie mixer along with a car from like the first like game's money when I got it. So like it was super liberating. Also, then I started engineering like all the local bands like in my high school, and then from high school to like a music scene after high school.
That sort of
when I was
set
in
you
college
up.
for like a year, and then I just gave up. That's when I was like, no, I'm doing this. Like bands are calling me to record. I'm going to keep doing this. And then I started actually taking it seriously by like year 2000. Decided I wasn't going to like finish some computer science degree at the local college or anything like that, because I mean that was definitely the path I was going to go otherwise. But I'm miserable. I don't really enjoy doing something like coding. It's not my thing. Like to like get into like maybe it would have been, but you know.
So music engineering is the only job you've had?
Yeah, well, that's not completely true. I mean, I had jobs when I was like 18 and 19, but pretty much since I'm 20, yeah. Like I got one job at a temp agency once by cheating on their test. That was amazing for like a month or two until I finally got put in a position where it was like they actually expected me to know all the stuff I had cheated on the test for. And it was like super important. It was like I was supposed to develop curriculum for the Hayward School District. And I just went to that job and it was like a complete nightmare from day one. Like it was like so above my head, and I just like, oh yep, doing my stuff. Like I'm like looking at this stuff from me. It's like I can maybe do half of what they're asking me to do, and it's like super independent because they're expecting me to be like, oh, this guy he tested off the charts. So it fucked me up pretty bad. That job. But the two jobs I got prior from that temp agency were amazing. They were called Office Team, and they were like a step up from like other temp agencies in terms of pay, because it was a good pay. It was like $15 an hour to $20 an hour for temp jobs, you know, in 2000, which was pretty good at the time for zero experience, zero college kind of thing. Yeah, that's the last real person job I had where I like showed up with like a collared shirt for my interview kind of thing.
Wow.
Crazy.
Do you think that you're going to be doing what you do now until you die, or will you retire?
I think that is 100% been determined. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, when you say doing that, I mean, sure, I might like start playing in a group or doing something, or who knows, whatever. But I'm not going to become like I'm not going to just suddenly get some white collar job or something, or like start gardening for a living. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe I'll do something fun. But no, it's a good chance I'm like mastering audio when I'm 70. I see that as the eventual, like, if I am like just don't have it in me anymore, like physically, like the demand to like, I probably will keep working to some extent till I'm dead. Yes, if that's what you're asking.
That is what I'm asking, because I feel the
We're all
same.
Deaf.
Yeah.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're losing any of your hearing?
Well, literally everybody loses their hearing. I've been pretty careful about it. I mean, at least since I was really, like when I was like 16, I would sit and play drums in a small room with no earplugs in. But I mean, honestly, since I was like maybe 17, I recognized I'm like, I need to protect my ears to some extent. I'd say the worst thing I do is wear these things and work out like for an hour every day recently, especially in this quarantine. I've been going crazy, been running like 5 to 7 miles a day. And like, just when I'm doing that, I'm like, I need that music blaring pretty loud in these things. And like, I just love listening to, that's when I'm listening to metal for the most part. I don't listen to metal any other time except when I'm working out.
Oh, it's a great workout tool. Metal is great for working out.
It's almost all, also, I'm multitasking when I'm working out. That's when I'm like, I'll be listening to mixes critically, like all the time while I'm doing that, way more than I will in a studio. That's when I can really focus on just like, what does this sound like through like, one of the most common consumer headphones that exists,
Right. Right.
Like that's what I want to hear this just as much as I want to hear it in a car or hear it in like fancy studio monitors in a equalized room, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
It all has to be good or it's all worthless.
totally.
Really.
Is there anything that you've done that's your favorite thing you've done or that you're the most proud of? Or is it just existing on a linear, never is the best, never is the worst, it's just moving on?
No, there's definitely standout things, but the question's kind of a pick your favorite child question.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to, I don't know. Let me think about this. That's a really hard question because like there's so many different kinds of special things. Like I could say Twisted Edge snowboarding to answer your question because it's like that's
so
a big
epic.
deal record to me. I could say Shut It Down, for example, because like that was like the last like thing that was like before I just jumped into this being like a full blown I'm a studio owner thing. And then I could say something like Circle the Jade that we just did that's like, you know, probably the top song I've ever put out. Like that song is getting massive play at this point.
Damn.
Or I could say like one of the bands that got the most popular off a recording or something, because sometimes that warms my heart more than something I even do. It's like, did I help set a band on their path to greatness in one way or another? That feels good too, because there's like, you know, dozens of examples I can think of that, and there's also dozens of bands I've done records with that I thought were like super special records that nobody's ever heard, and like they've just disappeared from existence.
What are a couple of those?
A couple of those records nobody's ever heard. Nobody's ever heard one of my best deathcore records, a House of Atreus record. That was a really good record. Not enough people heard the Apiary record, which was like the band that kind of formed after Clearing Autumn Skies. That's like a really good record. I just noticed the other day there was this really good I don't want to say pop punk or hardcore, so like pop punk hardcore-ish band called Young Generals that like literally the band broke up I think after the record was completed. It was like on a label and everything, and like just never heard. I did a whole Al Paris record that nobody's ever heard back in 2014.
Wow.
There's a totally finished Al Paris record that nobody's ever heard and nobody ever can hear.
So you don't think anyone will ever hear that record?
I'm sure it's been played like by them to their buddies, and like outside of that, there's legal reasons why it can't be heard. So like if it got like leaked on the internet or somebody got the files, it would be a real problem. So I've been pretty careful about it. I'm not like trying to like play it to people, but people should know it exists because they literally put up a banner for it for like 2 days before that whole situation went to hell.
Oh, wow, man, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know. You're trying to pick a favorite record.
Yeah, impossible.
It's hard. Honestly, like my favorite production I've been a part of.
Yeah.
Like might be the Sworn Enemy record I did a couple of years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago at this point. That record from start to finish, every step of the way, we made really good decisions, and it wasn't like it comes off effortlessly, and people have really received it really well. It was like kind of a comeback record for them. I love every bit of the engineering I did. I'll listen to that record right now. I'm like, it's flawless. I don't want to change anything. And you know this about this. I'm sure Navene doesn't feel this way about anything he's ever done.
Probably not.
I don't either, really. Like I'll hear anything, I'll be able to pick something I wish I had changed or done different. Like even on the records I've done that have been super successful, I'm like, no, that fucking snare tone is garbage. Like you brought that Light the City record. I still hate the snare tone and love everything else about that record.
Man,
I hate the snare tone. I'm like, what was I doing? The snare is like 10 times louder than everything else on the whole record. Like something like that bugs me. But so I have no qualms with that. There was like issues with like we came in like we weren't happy with vocals, and we had the smarts to be like, no, we're gonna fly you back out 2 months later from New York, redo some vocals because this like these few songs, they've got potential. We got to like fix them and get it so it actually works and get like the sickest guitar solos on this. And then we did that, and the record's just like, I think it for that genre, it's like perfect start to finish record because of all the little production decisions we made, and also the band, on to their credit, like working through some like problems as we went through it. It's so rare that you have a record that has problems that like ends up coming out perfect. And that's what happened there, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Speaking of like having to fly someone back out and how we were kind of touching on this earlier, that when you go and change something, it can completely change the outcome of a record. Is there any record that comes to mind to you that had you not changed something at the last minute, it just wouldn't have ended up the same way that it did?
Oh, probably a bunch of them. Well, I can think of the album. I want to say it's Portals, probably Arsonist, Get All the Girls, where I think the record was completely done with one set of vocals, and then we completely re-recorded all the vocals with their new singer. And that comes to mind pretty quickly, because it was like one of my favorite ones, and the new singer came in, and like it was not just like, a new singer singing the same lyrics. It's like all those songs have two versions somewhere in my hard drive somewhere with totally different lyrics, totally different songs. So that's a good example of that. I don't know, where one thing changed.
Or just like where you had to, where at the last minute, you just got this feeling like we can't put this out sounding like it does or with that part written like it was, and you had to change it at the last minute. I mean, the Sworn Enemy thing I just brought up is one. Yeah.
That happens a lot. I'm almost always the guy who's like, quit fucking with your song. Stop changing it like a million different ways. It was probably how you want it. We came in, but I mean, honestly, that's happened the most with Machinehead, because what we've been doing is like, the demos become the album. And Navene's been in the studio and seen this part. It's like, at any given moment, we can suddenly be like, look, song's done. Because like there's songs that have like lyrics all the way through, but it's like, are these good yet? Is the chorus catching enough? And like that song that Navene's on, like that had it was called Hurts When I Pee for a long time, because the original chorus of the song was, so they're like, tell me now why it hurts when I pee. It's like, and it had like the initial melody, but like the lyrics, the whole subject of the song changed, the whole like feel of the song changed since when we first recorded it. Like so that stuff changes much more than any other band I work with, because most bands I'm working with are like going to be like, we're booking 5 days and we've rehearsed these songs and we know roughly what we want.
Totally.
But like last minute changes that totally change songs all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's always for the better. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. I'm really scratching my brain to like try to figure out one really good example from the past of this.
It is sort of fascinating how often it happens, though.
I'll say this. Okay, here's this thing that comes to my mind. That All Shall Perish song, Wage Slaves. I'm pretty sure we added that cowbell at the very last minute.
That's kind of insane, because that song would not have been the song that it is without that cowbell part. I mean, that's what people know about that song. Just right when you said it, I was like, oh, the song with
I hope I'm remembering that correctly. I think that's what happened with that, though. And like, there's been a lot of stuff over the years like that were like, some major element to the song is at last second. I mean, when we did Dark Future, for example, I didn't hear the vocals till very late in the game. Like the record was very close to done by the time I'm hearing vocals, and that's a weird way to produce sometimes. Like you're like, we had finished all the guitar reamps and we had done all that kind of stuff before like vocals started like appearing on it. So like when that happens, that's interesting, because there's always the matter of opinion. Some people think we need to be like basing the whole songs around the vocals.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we've moved more towards. Like I feel when I listen to Dark Future, I can hear what you're talking about. I can hear that the vocals came in last, where it's like, damn, that vocal part's really cool, but there's like all these other layers going on now. We should have stripped some of it away, in my opinion.
The one song that I really think it worked on was Black Static, that the vocals came in later, because that song's so laid out in like a verse, chorus, verse layout that it just worked really well for vocals. But a lot of our other stuff, it doesn't have the openness of that particular song, and it's harder to come in at the last moment and do vocals that way. So yeah, like Navene said, that's something that we're actually trying to change. So it's funny that you say that, because it is sort of weird. Some of the vocals seem a little out of place, in my opinion, just because of the way that they were written.
There's just too many things going on.
I
think there could just be a little.
You also just made me remember another band that even more of a break. I had that band Necrogoblicon when I did that record. That record, that was maybe, and this is a good thing. This is a huge compliment to them. There's been a few times, like, when I'm doing some project like that, where I had heard those songs for like a year and a half almost. with no vocals and just some basic guitars on them, because they finished like all the drums and some basic guitars, and then they went home and they were like, well, we're going to record all the vocals back where they live, and they did all that stuff. So a year and a half later, I just start getting sent the tracks to actually like do all the stuff, and I get the guitars and bass first, and it sounds like how I remember it sounding. You know, it's this pretty, relatively eclectic metal records, like kind of metal. I don't know what to describe them musically as before there's vocals or keyboards, but point is, it's a pretty normal thing. And then I get those fucking keyboards and the vocals to that record, and that record is straight up ridiculous, both lyrically, vocally, and all like the electronic stuff to it. Like all the keyboards and stuff are just wacky, like all over the place. There's like techno breakdowns that they inserted into songs. I was like, oh, that's what that giant break was in this part. Is they were going to do like a straight techno part, like out of nowhere. And I'm like, this isn't what I've been working on the whole time. This is like a whole different genre of music. Like there's a song where he sings the whole song is from the perspective of like a falcon. Like that song, that whole record is just high concept, and like I had no idea how high concept was. I just thought he sang like a goblin when he sings, and that was like about
Oh yeah,
like the extent of it. But that as like it was so over the top,
that must have
amazing,
been a cool surprise. Yeah, that must have been a really cool surprise.
Yeah.
No, that was great. And that's like that. So that was last second though. I got the vocals like pretty late in the game. Like it was almost done with the record by the time I gained the vocals, and it's like kind of a huge part of it.
Definitely a huge part of it. I love Necrogoblicon. We went on tour with them last year, and they had just put out their latest record, and we were jamming it on the way home. And they're a really good band, really good. It's insane. But those vocals are pretty funny.
It's funny. I haven't seen any of those guys since the drum tracking session too, because like we finished the album by proxy like years later. And then they've done like you said, like 4 more records, I think, since then.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
That's just a good example of something that's like, total change with one thing. And I feel like that happens sometimes with bands where they'll come to me and be like, oh, we added keyboards to every song. And it's like suddenly a whole different album.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Me too. All right. Well, we're at an hour 50. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man. I'm sure we'll do this again because we have a lot to talk about. But we're going to close it out. KoperCrabb podcast. Yeah, have a good week, you guys.
Thanks for coming by, Zach.
Zack Ohren.
I'll talk to you soon about maybe mixing a new track.
Looks like we're working together.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Later.